If you work for the Catholic Church and want to avoid burnout, overcome parish dysfunctions, and put more souls in the pews, we're here to help. I'm Ty Hua, here with my co-host, John Kahns, and this is the Catholic Ministry Professionals Podcast, the show that provides leadership development for Catholic churches. Each week, you can expect engaging discussions, expert interviews, and actionable advice to help you move Jesus' mission forward in your parish. Today is the first part on a three-part series on how to work as a team. John, this is kind of important.
This is important. Where this came from. Okay, I was just having a conversation with a parish team, a parish staff, and in the context of that leadership development meeting, one of the things I said to them, I just referenced, as you're working with your the team, like now that we've got the team together, and their faces went blank, and they're like, "What team?" It's like, you guys are a team." It was just so funny. They're like, "Oh, you mean the parish staff?" And I was like, "Yes, the parish staff." That is a team working towards things. And what it did is it reminded me because of my days when I was working in a parish and how siloed we can feel because we each feel like we have our own little piece. And even when we're hiring people, we'll hire someone to do adult ministry, we'll hire someone to do youth ministry, we'll hire someone to do the religious ed part, and we look at specific tasks and hire someone for that task instead of saying, this is the thing that we have to do. How do we align the human capital, the people that we've hired, towards that end? So it just really reminded me of that. And I also too, I kind of thought, as we went on in that, one of the things we were trying to talk about was implementing a parish mission, and what would it look like? Because I always say, I think it's great to do any of the missions, but you really want to think about, what do you do after the mission? Like, how are you going to use this, and what are the pieces that you're going to take? And one of the people just looked at me and just said, I can't even think about anything until October. And I said, oh, okay. Well, I understand that one. I do understand that it gets really busy, but also, is that the way that we want it should be? Is that the way we should want it to be? Is that the way that our culture should be in our parish? We're so maxed out, we don't have time to even think about something else until after this date. I mean, should we be so busy? Ty, what do you feel about that?
I feel like that's such a cop out of potentially being overwhelmed by the work that they have, that they try not to add any more work on top of it, especially when it's not even more work, it's defining what we do and how we do it in order to do the thing that we're trying to do better.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that we don't want to just do more work. We want to have time to do better work.
Right.
And so, and I get it. Like, I get it. I've been in the rat race. I've been in that day to day, just that whirlwind, until I learned to kind of identify, like intentionally identify specific areas of my work, and to build the ministry that I knew God was calling me to do, so that I could move the maintenance force. So yeah, if you're one of those people and you're working in a parish and you feel like you're doing all this stuff alone, you feel like nothing ever gets better, nothing ever changes, nothing ever moves forward. You feel like you're doing the same thing day in and day out, and you're not sure if you're making any difference. And I really think this discussion, these next 3 episodes on teamwork, are going to be for you. If you feel like you're competing, and so many times we feel like we're competing with our coworkers for the parish resources. If you feel like you're competing with your other team members, then it might be time to look at how we do this. And so we're going to walk you through in the next several episodes. We're going to talk a little bit today just about, that groundwork of why teamwork is going to be so important and how it can help you. And then we're going to talk the next week about a little bit how to build rapport as a team, how to learn about the rest of the team, how to build that. And then we want to talk about a process for getting stuff done as a team. And Ty, I see you're highlighting a line there. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, the old adage, it's an African proverb of, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And this is so crucial into discerning what we want to do as a parish team, right? It's a team. Every department should be feeding into one another to push them to that higher mission, um that vision statement that we talk about, that mission statement that we talk about. Because if we are siloed individually, we will never ever attain what we try to attain, and that's when burnout happens. That's when frustration happens. That's when people resign and go into the secular world where they find a whole different type of burnout, a whole different type of dysfunction. So if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, we got to go together.
Right, and first of all, no one ever accused the church of moving fast, so we might as well go together. But yeah, it's just that idea that if you're trying to go fast, you're trying to beat someone, right? You're trying to win, and so often that competition becomes our own coworkers. So instead, kind of turning that on its head and saying, no, how do we begin to work together? How do we begin to function together? And I think we could talk a little bit here, just about three things that happen when we work intentionally as a team. I think there's three main things. Uh, when we want to focus on working as a team, when we do work as a team, there's three important parts. And the first of that is that it gives us this unity of mission and vision. So many times when we work in our parishes, Ty, you mentioned those silos, and we feel like we're working in these silos and working our own place, which means we have our own vision and our own mission that we're trying to accomplish, right? Working as a team really it necessitates that we take those separate pieces and think about how they fit together towards that one end, towards that one goal, right? All of this has to be oriented in the same direction. And what that does, what that allows us to do then is to begin to align ourselves in that area. So what we're going to have to do if we want to have greater clarity of unity of mission and vision, is we're going to have those conversations. We're going to have to sit down. We're going to have to hash out what is the most important thing. And that most important thing isn't going to be any one person's thing, because often for our pastors, it becomes Sunday. Sunday is the most important thing. And it is. And yet, there's something beyond Sunday, right? There's a reason the Mass ends with ascending, right? We are sent out because the goal actually is not to meet for Mass, right? Jesus gave us the mission to go and make disciples. And so there have to be people outside of just the pastor that say, no, but these other pieces, right? That's where religious ed comes in. That's where youth ministry comes in. That's where the funeral missions come in. That's where all these other groups of stuff kind of align with that. And we have to talk about, okay, what is the actual goal, and how do we orient and line all these pieces up into that direction, so we are all headed that same direction together. And that again, it's going to necessitate some real conversations where we sit down as a team and we talk about, where are we going? Why are we going there? And we have to learn to speak about that with clarity and transparency, because there are going to be times where if I'm running religious ed, I'm going to start thinking this is the most important thing in the week. But there's a million other things. There's practices for our musicians for Sunday, and that's important because we need beautiful worship. We want beautiful worship. That beautiful worship glorifies God. So how do we begin to line these things up? At the same time, you've got maybe a Catholic school attached, and they're really going to think, well, what we're doing is the most important thing because we've got all these people and they're all paying all this money and yada yada yada. Well, that's good, but is what you're doing oriented towards the mission? And we're going to have somebody else that's in charge of our facilities and our maintenance, or say, well, the Boy Scouts want to use the gym at this time, and that's really important. We can't not let them in. And then you have to have that conversation. Okay, well, does that support what we're trying to do, which is to make disciples, or is that, we're just trying to make money, or is that just we're trying to be accommodating, or what is it? So again, having that unity of mission and that unity of vision is going to really help you to align as a team, and it's going to necessitate again some really key conversations. What that'll then lead to then is a real, and I think this is the second main benefit of working together as a team, is going to give you clarity, some real clarity of work, real clarity of purpose. Ty, I've heard you say this before, but have you ever worked all day, really hard all day, and at the end you couldn't even tell what you got done?
Oh yeah, yep. Worked so hard that you didn't get anything done.
Absolutely. Well, the value of having this mission, of having your purpose, of having that mission right in front of you, and all working together towards that, is going to give clarity in your role, and it's give purpose to your role. So many of our Catholic ministry professionals, they do work all day, right? And they work all day, and they're not sure if they're getting anything done. They're not sure if they're having an impact. They're not sure if they're changing lives with the love of Jesus Christ. But if you can sit down at every team meeting and you can say, hey, this is what we are doing together, not as a staff, But as a team working on the mission of Jesus Christ, if you can sit down every week and say, this is our goal, and this is how you fit into that. And I can say, oh, I see how this helps me to do that. And you can give voice to that. Suddenly, you're not just working on random stuff, right? You're not random pieces, these 85 things that you have to get done before the weekend or before the end of the season, the liturgical season or whatever it is, but you're actually speaking with intentionality, specificity, with clarity into how what you are doing is helping to advance the mission of Jesus Christ to make disciples of all nations. Suddenly you wake up and that day you know with a little more great with just like a greater purpose in your heart, knowing like I am doing this thing. The other thing it does is it gives greater weight to certain decisions. It gives you clarity in your discernment. It gives you clarity as you're thinking about what I need to do today and what I need to do tomorrow. Because yes, I might have this list of bullet points that I need to get done, but in the bigger picture, I can see that these different bullet points have different weight of value. They have different weight when it comes into the reality of like the mission that we're trying to accomplish and how each of those help to leverage the mission forward. So again, working as a team, right? It gives you that clarity of mission. That gives greater clarity and greater purpose to the work that you're doing in the day. And it allows you to, as an extension of this, to look at your team members, who's on the team, understanding their strengths and how those strengths can even actually be something that you can lean on and use, right? That you can use and ask for the help. And it can also then, if you're working with people's strengths related to leveraging that mission forward in this particular initiative, suddenly you're going to increase the efficiency with which you guys get things done. So, for example, let's say that as we're bringing in Catholic ministry professionals for a mission, um, and we want to do their spiritual gifts, our spiritual gifts assessment, and you've got 40 parishioners that show up and they do this mission, or you've got 100. It doesn't really matter, but you've got all these people that show up. They want to do this mission. They go through. They identify their top 3 charisms and at the end of that, they take a picture of those charisms and they're going to send it to the parish staff, right? As a way to start the conversation of of a parishioner saying, I want to discern my gifts and how I can better serve my family, my parish, and my community with those gifts. And so they send that to you and they say, hey, these are my top 3 gifts. Now I want to know what to do. So you as a staff can look at this mission and rather than just seeing it as a parish event, a one-time thing, it was well done, it was great. Now we move on and we go back into just getting through Sunday or whatever. Now you're going to say, what we really want to take this at this moment, this parish mission that we brought Catholic ministry professionals in for, we really want to use this as a hinge point to move something forward. Okay, so we've already talked about how we want to make disciples. Now we want to talk about how do we begin to implement something like this, some new change, something where we can take this information our parishioners just did, this moment of encounter where our parishioners are saying, "Hey, I'm curious. I want to discern more intentionally." And you can sit down then as a team and say, okay, well, somebody needs to follow up with these people. Well, it might make most sense that our formation person would take care of these initial inputs, but actually you're a terrible communicator over email and over the phone. Like it's boring. So we're actually gonna have our front office person receive all this information, reach out and say, hey, we're so glad we really want to work with you because Ethel at the front office is just such a delight to talk to on the phone. So she's going to reach out to everybody as that first contact point. And from there, depending on that conversation, she's going to forward them to, well, really the pastor. He's got a great pastoral mind. He's great one-on-one with people. So we're actually going to send them over to him and say like, hey, Father Tom, will you follow up with Joe because he's got these gifts, but he's not really sure what to do with them, and he could use some more sort of discernment. And then we know that Father Tom's not good at following up with people, so we're also going to CC the formation person on there so they can keep that conversation moving forward. So you now just took something that instead of becoming a one-off event that it gets forwarded to the wrong person and they're not good at that follow-up, you can see how you can actually look at people's strengths and begin to align yourselves as a team towards this end. And when you do that, it's not an unbearable amount of work for any one person, but it's actually just the right amount of work for them to work intentionally on something, to begin to succeed together, to begin to accomplish tasks, to begin to move the mission forward on purpose.
There's something to be said about doing the thing that you're good at. Like, it adds rocket fuel to my day when somebody asks me to do something that I'm good at versus when they ask me to do something that I have no idea how to do it, or I'm really terrible at it. Like, don't ask me to do the thing I'm bad at. I'd prefer you ask me to do the thing that I'm really good at so that I can show off my gifts and feel good about it.
Absolutely. Well, and there's a reason, right? Scripture's full of this, especially, you get into Acts and people using their gifts of spirit, the letters of Paul, and they're very clear about this. Everybody is given different gifts, and we are supposed to use those gifts for the kingdom. My kids are running around. I'm sure the listeners heard that. Hey, Michael, I'm recording a podcast. Come back later, buddy. Love you. Well, that was my son, Michael. He's 5 and
Mm.
doesn't know how to read a room.
Well, do you
So,
have an on-air light that if he sees it, it's like, I can't
ooh,
bother.
they make those little night lights that you're supposed to be able to use. You can schedule it so it's red when they
Yeah.
got to stay in bed. It's green when they can get up. That's a great idea.
I need one of those because my wife right now is, rage cleaning, and I can just hear the vacuum upstairs. So that's why I've been going on mute.
I love it. So anyway, yeah, the New Testament's full of it. The letters of Paul. God gives you specific gifts, and you are supposed to use those gifts for the kingdom. And it just makes sense that we would do that naturally. If you step out of the church world and into the secular world, it's full of intentional work and professional development, all aimed at giving the language to be able to use so that people can become the team member that they're designed to be, and they can the corporation, the organization can use those gifts to their fullest extent, which helps them to leverage the mission forward, which again it gives purpose and like dignity to the work that we are doing day in and day out. So then the third thing that I think we really get when we work on a team is a community of support. And that is something so many Catholic ministry professionals have said is they feel like they're kind of alone in an ocean of ministry and they're just trying to stay afloat on their own. And it just seems ridiculous because most of them have a handful of people they're working with every day. And so if we can be really clear with what is our mission, what is our work together as a team, give dignity to the work, like clarity of purpose to people through that really boiling down what is our mission, and then finally realizing we are working together. We're not in competition for the resources here. We're actually a community working towards something. We realize that we're not alone, that we have support, especially for like difficult tasks. Because if you've got a culture of yes, we're all doing this together, suddenly if you just walk over into the next room and say, "Hey, can you help me with X?" They're more likely to say yes. They're like, "Yeah, absolutely. If it helps with this, I'm 100% on board." And so, this doesn't do away like working as a team doesn't do away with everyone's individual tasks of work, but it does create just a higher level of intentionality for us to put the church on mission, to make sure we're moving that forward, experience more success in our ministry, which that momentum builds momentum, and allows it kind of gives us, like you said, adds fuel to the fire so we can surge forward and continue to assault the gates of hell like we're supposed to and keep them running. Amen.
Amen. And I think too, you think of like any team sport, you think of any high functioning secular company, they're all working for a greater good, right? Think football, baseball. You have a job to do, but if you're unreliable, right? If I'm a running back and you're a lineman, if you're not going to do your job, I cannot do my job. And
Mhm.
as a team, we cannot do what we want to do, and that's to win, right? Whatever that is, running up the score, within ministries, winning more souls. Like, if you don't do your job, I can't do mine. And if I can't rely on you, I'm not going to ask you to do anything. And really, that breeds a culture of toxicity. So we have to work together as a team. You can call it whatever you want, but what it boils down to is, are you doing your job to help get the team to that end goal, that vision that we talk about ad nauseum?
Mhm. That'll preach.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, let's move on to the devil's advocate. Dun dun.
Well, it's great that you talk about this team aspect, John, but I actually work within a team where nobody on my team wants to work together. What say you?
That's a tough place to be. It is, and I've perceived that in the past when I've been working on teams as well, that you try to say something out loud like, "Hey, can we do this?" And even if maybe they sound excited about it, but nobody's willing to put in the extra work or the extra conversation to do that. Um, yeah, I think that that happens. I 100% know that. But is this the way that it should be? I mean, is that the culture that we want? And isn't it worth advocating and continuing to work for that? I mean, we see that this is how the church was built from the very beginning. You look at Acts and you see that they did the work, and then the work was too much for the 12, so they created the diaconate, and it's continued to build to the point where now we have lay professionals that work in the church. So I wouldn't be overwhelmed by this. I think what that just means is maybe you're not able to implement change right now. Maybe you're not able to implement a team dynamic right now. So I would say there's two things. One, maybe you can't get the whole team on board, but that doesn't mean that you can't start building your own leadership team for the ministry that you do. And I think when you do that, when success is contagious, right? Fire is contagious. It catches. So if you can kind of model it in your own area of your ministry, I think one that'll go a long ways. And that's what I've always done in the past is when the team is resistant to it, well, I can still lead my team well. I can still bring in volunteers, a team of volunteers. And if you're casting vision, if you're casting vision, you're leading from discernment, it is going to resonate in the hearts of the people that you serve. And so maybe, yeah, maybe you can't get Father right on board. Maybe you can't get Ethel at the front desk right on board. Whatever it might be, start in your sphere of influence and start building that team. Don't ask permission. Just do your ministry well, and that involves bringing people in. The other thing that I would say is to maybe read a couple books. One of those would be Andy Stanley wrote a book, Communicating for a Change, where he lays out a pathway that he uses to like preach to his congregation. He's a non-denominational pastor, but it's geared towards leading people into that position where they go, "Yes, this is the thing that I want." And he's got his it's he starts his process, his framework is I, we, God, you, and then me. So he starts out with I have this problem. And then he moves into we. I think we have this problem. Don't we all have this? And then he goes, let's see what God has to say about that. And then when he brings God into it, then he points to the congregant and he says, so this means you need to do this. And then he brings it back to we. And this is how we all benefit when you do this. So he's got this process. I think it's a good book for just kind of getting that understanding of how can I cast vision? How can I paint the picture of a better community, a better team, a better culture in our parish when we do XYZ because God has called us to it. The other good one is Our Iceberg is Melting by John Cotter. And he talks about his theory of change and how to work intentionally towards change and how you can do that with strategically and that honors the people in your community. And Michael just walked into the room. Hey, buddy. You're being very quiet. Thank you. So I would recommend reading one of those two books if you just want a little more of an idea of maybe how you can communicate those things to people and get them more on board. But again, if you can't get them on board, at least start in your sphere of influence, beginning to cast that vision.
I think a more important step is probably just to handle that relationship, right? Pick out a relationship where, when you say nobody on my team wants to work together. Okay, is it Ethel that doesn't want to work on this team together? Is it Ty? Is it John? And just pick out something that you can help them out with, right? Because in that relationship, they probably don't trust you. And when there's no trust on the team, like I said, it creates this toxicity that permeates throughout the team, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. So if you just pick out one person to say, you know what, I'm going to make their job easier, it's going to be more work for me, but I'm going to show them that this is not just about individual silos within this staff, right? This is an actual team. So Ethel, you're not great. No, I wouldn't say this to Ethel. You're not great at following up. You're not great at sending emails. You're not great at this or that. And you notice that, maybe offer to help them. Maybe just go and say, "Hey, I would love to be able to help you do whatever you need done. Like, you look like you're overwhelmed. Can I help you in this certain aspect?" And you're gonna notice probably a little bit of a hesitancy of like, "Okay, what's the ulterior motive? Why are they helping me?" But if you do it without any recognition, if you do it without expecting anything in return, like, tit for tat, a quid pro quo, like, just do it to help your team member out. And you're gonna notice the more you do that, the more the walls are gonna start to come down, and potentially now we could start casting that vision together versus you just throwing your vision at them. Um, that is probably the best way to begin to work as a team. I know within the secular world, when I was a inside salesperson, so I'm calling all the time, and we've got a team of 6 or 7 people calling all the time. What I would do is I would actually reach out to other team members, say, "Hey, do you have any difficult accounts that you can't get anywhere, you can't get past the gatekeeper, you can't get them to make a decision, you can't get them to do anything, respond to an email. Can I reach out to them for you? Like, if I get the sale, that's all on you. Like, the commission goes to you. I just wanna help you out." And then the more we do that, they can in turn around and say, "Hey, thanks for helping me out. Do you have any of those accounts that I can call for you?" So now we're working as a team together for that end goal of increasing sales as a team. So if you don't have anybody on your team that wants to work together, just go help out as many people as you can. And you'll notice that this evolution of nobody wants to work together turns into, "Oh, maybe I'll help you out this one time." And then it turns into a couple times. And all of a sudden, hey, things are turning around here. Like, I like this environment of helping each other out. This environment of we are actually getting things done, and I notice throughout the day I'm getting things done. I'm checking things off of my to-do list, and I'm making progress in this ministry, whatever that progress looks like.
Yeah, and I actually like that for our actionable step for today. So I'm gonna just switch that banner over here if we can find. There you go. And I love that. If you for your actionable step today, because we never want you to leave an episode without something that you can do today to advance the mission, to build the community, to build the kingdom. Uh, I love that. If you identify someone on your team, especially if you're in a team where nobody's really on board with this, identify someone that you can serve on your team today, and start thinking about how can I approach them and offer to help. If it, at the same, if at the team meetings every week, if they're voicing the same struggle or the same concern, like, find some time and don't do it in front of the whole team because that might embarrass them. But after the meeting, say, "Hey, I noticed that you've been mentioning this as a frustration for you, and I'm wondering if I can help in any way." And just see where that conversation leads you, and be relentless in it. Relentless in your compassion, relentless in your love, and your support of that team member, and see how that begins to change that relationship dynamic. And I think that's a good way to identify it, is if, yeah, they are mentioning the same struggle week after week. Definitely try to reach out and start that. On the other hand, if you are on a team and you guys are like roaring to go, like you're on board, yeah, we need to do something different, but you're not sure what that next step is, shoot us an email, send us an email to catholicminpros@gmail.com, and see if you can bring us in for a team training. Start that conversation, because we'd love to come out and help you identify goals, build a plan of action and a plan of accountability that can help you to move the mission forward in your parish.
Amen.
All right. Finally, thank you for listening to the Catholic Ministry Professionals podcast. If you want to transform your parish through your work, but you're not sure where to start, you can download the free parish health assessment at catholicminpros.com. catholicministryprofessionals.com/free assessment. It's 36 questions. It only takes about 5 minutes to do. And afterwards, you're going to have a color-coded picture of your parish's health that you can use to fuel better conversations, prioritize better work, and become a better leader. You can email us at catholicminpros@gmail.com to share your feedback. And finally, don't forget to text this episode to a priest or a friend of ministry that could benefit from it.
And with that, we'll see you in the vineyard.